draft toward 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort? While our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front?
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical, intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia die as a wish, because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depends on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft.
Comrade Willie, I think Amazonia has listened to all the LGHS and to you in particular. And I hope that all the things that have been happening in Manyu, all the things that have been happening in Akwaya, all the deaths and everything, I think God will protect our people somehow. I really hope so. I haven't really taken the time to really understand what is going on, but I just want to commend all of you for anything that you are doing to preserve the lives of our people. So without wasting time, I'll hand over to Paddy. I don't know if Paddy is here to usher in the president with the national anthem. Mr. President, welcome. Thank you. Is Paddy here?
The Amber World Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort while our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front?
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical, intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not founded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia die as a wish, because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The war draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop.
Let me start by acknowledging my Vice President of Amazonia, my indefatigable Eric Ate, the Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati, and my special presidential entourage here today. The following trusted associates of mine in the interim government from the great county of Manyu. Dr. Anderson Kajan, my Director of Cabinet Administration. Mr. Oben Emmanuel, Deputy Secretary of State for IT. Mr. John Manga, Senior Presidential Advisor. County Coordinator, Mr. Willie Ayon. For local government chairs, Mamfe Central, Ma Sarah Akwaya, Dr. Mbia. Upper Bayang, Mr. Tabi Yumojok, Mr. Ojong. House of Representatives, Mamfe Central, Honorable Egbe. Akwaya, Honorable Elias. Upper Bayang, Honorable Tanyi. Yumojok, Honorable Caroline. Dear people of Manyu and dear Ambazonians, let's start by paying tribute to the more than 45,000 Ambazonians, especially our pioneer heroes and heroines of the armed struggle here in Manyu, who lost their precious lives since this war was declared on us by dictator Paul Biya of the French vassal state of Cameroon in 2017. Let us remember in particular those compatriots and defense forces in Manyu who were the first to pay the ultimate price in our liberation struggle with their precious blood, not forgetting the scores of lives recently wasted by La Republique in Akwaya. A moment of silence, please. May their sacrifices not be in vain, and may we continue our fight in honor of them as they rest in power. I salute all of you great sons and daughters of the great county of Manyu. History has it on record that 2 years ago, precisely on May 9th, 2020, we gathered here to launch the first ever county-wide draft tour in 2020. You took up the challenge amidst deep political wranglings that rocked the county at that time. The enemy and spoilers had written Manyu off because of self-destructive forces, tribal bigots who lacked the revolutionary grit to comprehend the real intentions of clansmen and women pulling the strings from the shadows. They had been emboldened by the Nera abduction incident 2 years earlier, when our former leader and president, led uh, led by Sisiko Ayuktabe, were abducted and put under chains and locks. Taking advantage of the cracks in our ranks, they sought to starve the struggle of a strong revolutionary leadership and necessary resources to redirect the people of Manyu into victory. They thought it was all over, and some joined the camp of CPDM blacklegs to trade our common destiny for crumbs. Others joined the camp for a quick fix through direct surrender talks with La Republique. They were all mistaken. There was a stubborn patriotic remnant that you wholly represent here today. You invoke the spirit of our national ancestors who converged in Manfe in 1953 to agree on the need for our total independence. And you arose to stem the waves of spoilers and to grant the wishes of our revolutionary martyrs, whose blood speak forth our freedom in the streets of Dadi. You stood tall for Ambazonia, the very courage that your sons and daughters mustered to challenge the genocidal marauders in armored vehicles and helicopter gunships is the same courage that our Ambazonia restoration forces across Ambazonia have emulated in successfully countering the genocidal onslaught on our innocent people. Even when the enemy tried to use some of our sons in the dungeons to manipulate Ambazonians and derail the cause of our liberation, most of you, the wise people of Manyu, were the first to reject tribalism, reject nepotism, and remain steadfast in your resolve. Thank you. You boosted our hope of resisting the cruel enemy with our bare knuckles if need be. You led us as a country to embrace the strategy of self-defense or armed resistance as the most pragmatic option to counter the enemy's genocidal agenda now or never. Let me use this opportunity to salute our brave Ambazonia Restoration Forces, especially those in Manyu County, who have constantly denied Dictator Biya's genocidal regime the opportunity to claim control over our territory and to fake victory over us and present Manyu as a trophy to his French master Macron, currently visiting their genocidal troop headquarters in Yaoundé. Your tenacity on the battlefield in the complex and strategic border county of Manyu is remarkable despite many challenges. I wonder what more lies Dictator Biya will be telling Macron to justify further French support to continue sustaining this senseless war or bail out their crippling economy from the present free fall. The economy of La Republique will remain in this downward spiral as a result of an unsustainable military strategy and their refusal to negotiate with Amazonia. Every socio-economic indicator from the IMF confirms clearly that Cameroon is now in a self-inflicted recession, and if their state of financial insolvency is not overturned, that country shall collapse sooner than imagined by the war hawks in Yaoundé. That will lead to what is known as a failed state, as the state of insecurity within La Republique shall be grossly aggravated. A failed state in the Gulf of Guinea will be a loss not only for our two nations, but for all international stakeholders in the Gulf of Guinea. A free Amazonia will be a better friend to France and the United States than a Russian Republic of Cameroon in charge of the Gulf of Guinea. Let me say this to Mr. Macron, President of France. This is not the 50s when colonial France spearheaded the massacre of French Cameroon nationalists and civilians using helicopter gunships and committing all kinds of pogroms. The worst genocide committed by the French in the 50s that was hardly documented and went for decades unaccounted for in our history books. But in case you were ever pressured by your war hawks in Yaoundé to think your dark history of the 1950s in French Cameroon could be repeated today with impunity in the war with Amazonia, and if you have the expectation to escape international scrutiny like your forebears Jacques Foccart or Charles de Gaulle did, then you are mistaken again. Consider this proxy war of yours in Amazonia as an unpleasant feedback for your country's colonial legacies in this part of the world. Your policies in Africa are the big elephant in the room. You cannot wish this problem away. You must take concrete steps to redress the issue, not pretentiously as a passerby, but as the true principal and the primary international stakeholder, acknowledging your historical role in our ongoing war and apologizing to the people of Amazonia and La Republique will be a right step in the right direction. Unlike French Cameroonian nationalists who fought without external help, we are Amazonians, former British Southern Cameroonians. We are a determined people with a no-nonsense diaspora. We have decided that colonial France will not govern Amazonia again by their proxy. We will freely negotiate the terms of our engagement with France as a free, sovereign, and independent people. French Cameroon, one of your vassal states in Africa, has for the past 60 years taken everything we are and all we have in Amazonia and left us with nothing. He who has nothing to live for is not afraid to die trying to get what he believes is his. We have nothing to lose because we have lost all. Our only hope is to fight for something. Some of us will surely die, but not all of us. Amazonia must be free. No force by whosoever will break our resolve to a free and independent homeland. If it means continuing this war for decades, we will do so until Amazonia is completely liberated from this Franco-Cameroon annexation. My advice to you, sir, Mr. Macron, and the French, is that France should take responsibility now for the current anti-French revolutionary wave that is gradually enveloping sub-Saharan Africa. And this is led by the continent's #1 victims of French colonial policies, the youth. Mr. President, you have a chance in history during your second and maybe final term in office in France to embrace the immediate re-decolonization of Africa from the vestiges of France's chokehold. You will need an honest dialogue with the people of the continent and sincerity to define a new Franco-African ideology suitable for this dispensation. If you don't, the current wave of anti-French sentiments will continue to grow. When the present agitators, those you now despise, will seize power across the board, it will be too late to renegotiate with Africa. France will be condemned to wage primitive wars against every of its former colonies just to maintain an iota of relevance on the continent. We have expressed our will to dialogue via the Swiss-led process, a peaceful resolution mechanism launched since 2019, supported by almost all Security Council members. Recently, Mr. President, I wrote to you congratulating you upon winning the French presidential elections. I reiterated our willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue with France, if possible, for a peaceful resolution of the ongoing conflict. A conflict that constitutes a threat to the interests of the people of our two states. Permit me re-emphasize what I meant. Mr. President, the fact is you will protect the interests of France in the Cameroons not through a sustained military strategy in Ambazonia, but by embracing a free and friendly Ambazonia and ensuring a stable and prosperous La Republic. Otherwise, it is our opinion that a failed Cameroon state will be the inexorable outcome of your present military strategy in Ambazonia. The jarring question Ambazonians are asking tonight are, where does Mr. Macron stand on the issue of dialogue and negotiation, and what is he going to do about this? As a young leader of a free Europe, you understand better the need for us to fight, for Ambazonians to fight to guarantee the future of their own children in a free and prosperous society. Our children deserve a just and peaceful resolution of this conflict. We came together by political action to mint a new country. La République did not conquer us in a war. For French Cameroon to think that they have the right to kill 45,000 plus of our people for daring to reverse the same political action we took peacefully 60 years ago, sir, is unforgivable. No amount of barbaric force will quell our quest for a free and independent homeland. We believe in Sarkozy's theory that he espoused in Dakar in 2007, where he said, and I quote, "The tragedy of Africa is that Africans have not fully entered into history." He was very correct. However, if that is a challenge, then Amazonians accepted the challenge literally. We will fight until we fully enter history as a liberated people, completely independent. Sons and daughters of Mamfe Central, Akwaya, Eyumojok, and Upper Bayang LGs. My dear people on the home front, our restoration quest could not have gone anywhere if you did not defy the barbaric Biya-led Bulu-Beti regime's onslaught on our people in 2017 by picking up whatever rudimentary tools you could lay your hands on to start defending yourselves. For that father whose home was burnt down and who left everything behind, braving the treacherous border forest in Manyu to flee to safety in Nigeria with his family, we cannot give up. For that widow who wakes up every morning in the bush or in a foreign land pondering what her children will eat, we cannot give up. For that little girl or boy who is not sure of his or her next meal and whose education has been cut short because of this genocide, we cannot give up. For our daughters being raped by La République du Cameroon genocidal thugs and some forced into prostitution, we can't give up. For our frail grandparents wondering whether some angel will provide them with basic medicine to relieve them of their illnesses, we can't give up. And for our valiant Ambazonia Restoration Forces, the ARFs, who are battling day and night to make sure our vulnerable people are protected from the military surges of La République's barbaric genocidal army, we cannot afford to give up. We are here today because we cannot give up on our people. We are here today to recommit ourselves to this yearly patriotic duty to draft as our own contribution and sacrifice to this liberation quest. Let us open our wallets and contribute generously to our freedom. Freedom is never gotten for free. Our Ambazonia Restoration Forces are counting on us today to do our most, the most we can this year, financially, so that they can have the necessary tools to do the work destiny has assigned to them. Let us not fail them. Let us send a clear message to the enemy and her master tonight that we have not been slowed down by media manipulations, corruption, blacklegism, betrayals, or malicious propaganda. The only path to our freedom is resistance until we are free. That our patriotic civic duty of drafting will continue to guarantee the minimum we need from the diaspora to sustain our resistance. I want to encourage all of you, financial warriors, to speak out with your wallets tonight so that the enemy will hear these loud and clear. Dear compatriots, last year, the execution of our national strategic security plan took the enemy off guard. In frustration, they doubled down on their 1950s barbaric scorched earth policy, burning hundreds of our settlements and villages, roasting innocent civilians in the act. Their inability to face our valiant ARFs has exposed La République's genocidal thugs as animals which have no value for human life. That is why they continue to target our unarmed women and children daily to package their anti-Amba propaganda to the armchair international community. The recent massacre and burning of bordering villages of Bakinjo, Mavas, Bali, and other neighboring communities in Akwaya local government area, which resulted in not only the death of Ambazonian civilians but also citizens of Nigeria, was just another blind tactic masterminded by the genocidal regime of Yaoundé and facilitated by so-called CPDM elite from Manyu and colonial apologists in the diaspora who hail from this country. Shame on them. This atrocious madness perpetrated by La République's genocidal thugs who turned around to blame our forces for the same atrocity crimes is ludicrous. They do all this to try to manipulate international opinion against our liberation cause. These are all signs of compounded frustration. Our ARFs are up to the task. and we must continue to make sure they have the resources to defend our vulnerable people and our homeland. Let all of you in Manyu make sure you bring in those on the side to participate, howbeit anonymously, in this patriotic duty of drafting for county. Tell your neighbor that when a nation is at war, winning the war is more important than white elephant development projects. And joining the army is more honorable than all professions put together. Personal riches compared to the collective destiny at stake amount to nothing. Your learning and intelligent arguments without freedom is glorified slavery. We must therefore come together and fund this effort as our primary responsibility. There's much work to be done. Let me remind you that our ARFs are more sophisticated today than they were 5 years ago. Yes, they know what to do and can do better if we continue to furnish them with what they need now, if we continue to keep them focused on the ball. That is why the Award 22 is very crucial in the implementation of our National Strategic Security Plan going forward. And you, my comrades in arms, the ARFs, Manyu County Commandos, the anacondas of Otu, who are bleeding the enemy in Oyomojok LG, the vultures of Mavas in Akwaya, the ARFs of Opabaya, not forgetting our Memphis Center commandos. You are some of our best fighting forces we still have in Amazonia. We celebrate you all. The bad news is setting one Cameroon blacklegs at home and in the comfort of the diaspora, some who had once been in the inner core of our revolution are now busy trying to infiltrate your ranks by preaching blind unity and disguising as your genuine helpers. 99.9999% of you have never spoken with me, but these people will tell you Sako is your problem. People who are not paying their draft will tell you Sako is your problem. People who drink and dine with the Manucipidem cabal will tell you Sako is your problem. Please ask them which LGA in Manu has ever paid their money into my personal account. Which one of them ever lost their money in the National Treasury to Dr. Sako? Instead, it is one of yours from Manu, unfortunately, that conspired to swindle 71,000 plus 40,000 from our Central Treasury, money that was meant for our ARFs. Before you donate today, the money in your pocket belongs to you. After you donate today, the money is still yours and managed by you. Why should anyone make it about Dr. Sako? Please, you all must develop forensic filters in your ears and minds. Otherwise, the rate of manipulation is becoming too sophisticated for some of us. My advice to all is to stick with those who are consistent in their words and actions, who don't change their language according to their changing selfish interests. Please, when you don't know what to do, stick with those who stick with this urge. Because if they are wrong, we shall correct them. As ARFs, you have been united by your common allegiance since 2018 when we officially embraced self-defense and later established the APP county by county blueprint as our revolutionary model. What then is unity today with people you have no experience working with? People you cannot trust with your life? Can't you see that unity with someone going in the opposite direction to yours is confusion? Make no mistake. A few ranks within our ARFs have been infiltrated. And you, the generals and commandos of ARFs, Manyu, should be more vigilant now than ever. I call on you all to stay focused and know that your interim government will always be there with you, all the way till we reach Boya. Leaving your ARF ranks to join with every newly minted group, which is not fighting the enemy, which is not under the same authority as you, is a huge risk. And doing so, if you must, without due diligence, is signing a warrant for your untimely death. Fellow Ambazonians, I have declared a national lockdown from Monday, the 25th of July 2022 to Wednesday, the 27th of July 2022. This is in memory of the more than 45,000 Ambazonians who have perished in this genocidal war declared on us since 2017. A genocide executed by Dictator Biya under the watchful supervision of his colonial master, Mr. Macron, President of France. We are doing so to send a strong message to Mr. Macron and his media entourage that our determination to liberate our homeland is steadfast and we will stop at nothing short. The 2 weeks that were decreed to crush us have turned into 5 years, and we are just starting. This generation will get this liberation project closed once and for all, even if it means decades of resistance. That is the message, and we will overcome. Let's walk and let's get back to work. Let the 2022 draft for Manyu kick off now. Viva the great people of Manyu County. Viva our brave Ambazonia Restoration Forces in Manyu. And viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. God bless our beautiful country.
ne kwani o mayer bi se punye se ngo te beka manche ya fok ya kwa no e ngo kari no mo wese e ngo manyu
Oh no! Petit. Petit Vomanyu.
Vomanyu Manchoko Yomos. Special dedication to Manyu sons and daughters all around the world. Seseko champion Arab money. Ben Alvis, Searchlight Schools, Jonaya Properties. Executive Director at Global Think and Tank Africa, Joachim Marie, more sing London. Tata Asaf Akebe Mbiebi, Eyanga. Dr. Henshaw Ebai, Manyu, the future. President Desmond Ashu, Mecca, UAE, Dubai. Rambo Mix de Dubai, Montagbari. Manyu, home boys, fully represented. Everybody on the dance floor. President Daflo, Mr. Ebot, oh no, Enno Rouse, Waters, Zidane, Houston, Texas, USA. Enno Soro, Mamawa, Gore Seseku, Gore Daji, Atagas Bariawa, Williams Bison, Nengora Eugenia Bison, Business Gurus, Houston, Texas. Ereti Neva, Mama Ese Bebe Manga, Neashu Jim, Varovese, 5e Tivative qui veut te gagner un dorambe. Fais va quoi. Oh no!
Yeah.
Manas, the man behind the machine. Mano. Oh no! Fiafo, Fiafo, Abelo, oh no! Benel Tabia Bonkwai, Adax Petroleum, Montagbar, Commandant Bisson, Customs, Takungasa, Maxi Manor, Bangakangari, the golden voice. Manyu.
My name is Nikki Tarrant.